Farm, Meghna Narayanan.
And to moderate this session, we'd like to invite a writer and photographer who took her love for her hometown to the common folks on the street, the founder of Humans of Bombay, Karishma Mehta.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm very thrilled to be here with all of you. I was telling you backstage, these are my favorite panels. So very, very excited to be here. Neha, I'm going to begin with you. Technology, obviously, and women in tech, right? Like women who are using tech, it's empowering rural women. How do you see this contribution in terms of the economy of our country in the years to come, especially to do with women and using technology?
Yeah, thank you. Very excited to be here again, very excited about the panel, very close to my heart. So starting off, I'd say, we strongly believe that technology is going to be that accelerator when it comes to gender equity and inclusion. What we've seen is that because of technology, a lot of the physical barriers which have so far been holding women back are getting taken away, right? And this is more so in rural areas where women might not have access to information, to resources, to services. And with the advent of technology, that access is getting better and better, right? At Google, our core mission is organizing the world's information and making it universally accessible. And it's really the universally accessible is the area where we've been focusing on. And if you look at the past few years, I think this has scaled so much faster than what we would have imagined, where people are just using technology for every other aspect. And it's absolutely important that women are an equal part of this digital progress. And one of the, a very good proof of point is this program, Internet Sathi, which we started about 5.5, 6 years back. And at that point of time, in rural India, only 10% of internet users were women. 90% internet users were men. And so we took it, we said, what can we do to change that? And we started this program called Internet Sathi, where we went and trained women in villages to help other women get started with their internet journey. We trained about 80,000 of such trainers, who we call Internet Sathis, which is Internet Companion. And these 80,000 Internet Sathis went on to train about 30 million women in 3 lakh villages across the country. Wow. And what we saw is, thank you. The outcome of this was so heartening. What we started to see is that, women who could not have access to education, they started using the internet to teach themselves. Women who could not access healthcare, like Indumati, Indumati from West Bengal said, when they would have an issue in the village, they would not know which is the closest hospital which is going to be open at night and where could they go to. She says, now, I actually help women, especially who are pregnant, who get into labor, because I have this information to help them. Right? I met a girl in Telangana who said, I missed my exam last time because by the time someone went to the college to check the exam date, the exam was over. She said, I will never miss my exam again. So it's basically these access to information which started to happen. They started looking at benefits, government benefits which they're entitled to, which they did not even know about. Right? So some of these barriers have started to bridge. And the most interesting one is that almost 30% of them started something of their own. Yeah. So, Rohini from Satara, she was into beekeeping. She started a honey business. Anjali started her masala business. Someone started lemongrass oil farming, right? So a lot of these entrepreneurial women have started to come out just because they now understand what they need to do. Right. And that's going to give a spurt from an economic opportunity, equity standpoint for women across. Yeah. And then what we've done post that really is, because we've seen this entrepreneurial spirit, we launched this program called Women Will, where we've actually got an aim to train 1 million women entrepreneurs with digital skills. And it's the same thing which we're seeing there, Karishma. It's basically, whether it's Kalavati, she's started to use digital payments. Suddenly, she's making more money, right? Or this lady in Hisar, she does skilling for, for stitching and sewing. And now she's got 10 franchises because she's like, I can train people online. I don't need to be limited to my physical space. It's opened up a world of possibilities for them. And I think that's the power of technology. And like I said, it's going to accelerate a lot of the equity which we're all hoping for.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think some of these anecdotes really also make you see the subjective value, not just, the objective in terms of number, which is fantastic. Rashi, my question is next for you. You've seen it all in your entrepreneurial journey. Your products at some point were rejected by 200 stores. Vendors refused to make products that were for pets because there was this stigma. How did you, as an entrepreneur, overcome these challenges, right? Because it's very easy in the nascent stage to kind of be disheartened and give up, especially if the numbers are like 200 stores are not carrying my products. How did you overcome that challenge?
Thank you so much for having me here. I think my inspiration has been my dog, Sarah. I started out to make products so that she could live a healthier, happier, more comfortable life. And even in the face of rejection, that is really what kept me going. Even though it was extremely, intimidating, disheartening, heartbreaking, for a young entrepreneur to put all of her passion combined with science and art and heart and go into the market and everybody say, no, this is not going to work. I think it was just some little voice in the heart and head which told me to keep going. And of course, I didn't see it then, but when I see it now, back in hindsight, I've realized how much that rejection has served me. Because those 200 retailers, showed me the door and said, this is not going to work and, we don't want to keep your stuff. That led us to build out our store network, which today is our biggest competitive advantage. It helps us to be close to our customers, learn from them. That inspired a lot of design thinking and helped us to innovate and build products faster than anyone else. So, when you look back and join the dots, it sort of makes sense, not always in the moment. And I've just come to grow and learn that all of these obstacles are here to serve us in so many different ways.
And now, of course, Meghna, so many questions. We've interviewed you for Humans of Bombay, so we have context of your story. At 29, you were rejected for a job opportunity, correct? Because of maternity leave. And you and your partner both set up Slurp Farm. Was it difficult at all to get investment as a woman? And how was that process for you?
Firstly, really nice to be here. Thanks, Karishma, for that question. I think for us, it wasn't hard to get investment. But I think what's important is the numbers are very clear, right? I think Aisha said, 13.2% of our women entrepreneurs. And we know that, that's just crazy. That means of that, the number that are getting funded are even smaller. So it's almost a little bit irrelevant whether we got funded or not. It's a very real problem and it needs to be solved. I think both Shorvi and I are very aware of we've gone to the right schools, and have access to the networks that all the boys do. So, we've been able to get into the rooms that we'd like to and really raise money from whoever, we felt was the right fit for us. We also have with us Anushka Sharma, who is the most absolutely wonderful sort of investor and brand ambassador for both our brands. So I'd say, at the right time, the exact right person. And so, I think Rashi said it right. Entrepreneurship is full of hurdles, but each one of them is teaching you something and only just getting you better. So I don't even remember actually, when people say, what were the 3 biggest problems? I was like, I don't know, they don't exist anymore. I have 3 new ones. You want to hear about those?
So, but it's an ongoing learning process still, in terms of building your space when it comes to such a large industry and there are such massive competitors. Is that ever a challenge that you've kind of taken head on and said, okay, this is how we'll do it different?
So I think that the essence of the brand Slurp Farm was born because, the need was very clear. There was just really nothing on the shelf that I wanted to feed my child. And the more I spoke to other mothers, that was exactly what we were hearing. And it actually became quite apparent that, yes, there's a need, but there's also a humongous opportunity to go out there and make something that means something to, mums across this country. Right? So that's sort of the mission we're on to be India's most loved kids food brand, right? And yeah, so that's what motivates me every single day.
To push it. Amazing. Neha, you know, when we talk about digitalization for women, specifically, how has this played a role for women entrepreneurs? You know, you mentioned these little honey stores, other things, right? Is there anything in the pipeline that you all are building for women entrepreneurs in the world of digitalization now, especially because, like you mentioned, you know, 1 million women is what you guys are looking at. Is there something specifically for women entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think, look, it has to go beyond grassroots, right? While we made a lot of strides, I would say, with women participation in the economy, in the workforce, there is a very long way. We still have to go. Yeah. And just like technology is helping spur that economic growth for women at the lower strata, you know, it can definitely help across the spectrum. So there's a host of work which we're doing. For instance, one is to start with how do we get workforce participation. So we have something called Google Career Certificates. Yeah. And we have scholarships which help women start working in the technology industry, right? We have a program called DigiPivot, which is actually focused on mothers wanting to get back to work. It's a huge, huge issue, right? Like after women become mothers, a lot of them drop out, and just giving them that comfort, look, you can come back into the workspace. So we run DigiPivot as one of the programs. And when it comes to entrepreneurs, I think startups are, you know, at the helm of innovation which is happening in this country. And again, I feel like it's imperative that we have more such women founders. Join this innovation bandwagon. So we do accelerators. So we have a Google for Startup Accelerator, which is focused on women founders as well, along with we ensure there is a equal representation of women across accelerators, mentoring. We're also doing funding for women startups, right? So it's a spectrum of work which we do. And it really comes down to, if we don't have enough women participating, you know, the solutions for women will also get missed out. You know, Meghna spoke about Slurp Farms. We had Niramai was one of our accelerator, you know, startups, and Niramai, for those who don't know, they're into breast cancer detection just using your mobile devices, right? And those are the kind of solutions which might not intuitively come if there are not enough women participating in this whole startup innovation spectrum which is happening. So I think we're very committed to ensuring that, you know, wherever we can, with the help of technology, whether it's for workforce participation, whether it's to help women get back into workforce, or even from a startup standpoint, we're committed to with our programs and efforts that we're doing.
Amazing. I mean, breast cancer with your mobile is like transformation. It's unbelievable. Huge congratulations on that. Rashmi, my next question is for you. In one of your interviews, you mentioned that women strive for perfection and don't speak enough about their achievements. So what, in your opinion, is needed, or what would you recommend for women to kind of make that mark, right? Or like be more vocal about what they're doing, or what their milestones are, victories are? Because so often women feel like, let me not boast about this. So what's your take on that?
I think a lot of it is to do with social conditioning and how we're brought up. I still struggle to sort of talk about organizational or personal wins, and again, it's a journey where I'm trying to do it in a way that I'm comfortable and that feels authentic. I think truly when I think about this, what comes to me is that we need to own our vulnerability, and we need to see it as a strength, because it is. I've never faced discrimination as a woman, or at least I've never chosen to take that lens and see it that way. And I think that, you know, if we were to stop putting all of these boxes of male, female, what we're good at, what not, but just every human being owning who they are, not comparing yourself to anyone else, and just bringing your unique, authentic magic to the world with the best intention, I think that's what everybody needs to do to make their mark on the world, because that's how it should be.
Amazing. Meghna, you've obviously hit large milestones. You were mentioning Anushka Sharma as a brand ambassador, who's such a perfect fit for the brand, right? She's a mother and she's looking for healthy options. And the way she even talks about the brand is very organic, right? Like you had to actually mention, you know, to me backstage that, you know, it's a part of it. What next for you in terms of, you know, okay, this is something that we want to achieve as a brand and maybe push the envelope in this direction? What's next for Slurp Farm?
I was just chatting with Rashi. She's been on this journey for 15 years, and she feels she's getting started now. So I think that's how most entrepreneurs feel, right? You just, we dust off when something bad happens, and then something good happens, we dust right off and sort of start all over again. So as far as we're concerned, we're definitely just getting started. People have finally started to, look for healthier options. And some people now have heard about the brand. So just getting that awareness up, we're in 2,000 stores. The goal in the next 3 years is to get that to 40,000 stores. Just keep building, right? I think that's the dream. There's just so many children, that have to eat healthy, and we're going to help the sort of parents, not just mothers, hopefully parents, help get them what they need. We also have a second brand that we've just launched, Meele. It's for that adult who's looking to eat healthier. So it's that 25 to 50-year-old who's trying to, eat better for you grains, better for you sugars, no sugar, so on and so forth. And this is the brand that will take Indian millets to the world. So we're very excited. This is the International Year of Millet, and there's a lot of excitement around it, and on the back of which, we're hoping to launch in the US and make a mark.
Wow, and that'll be fantastic. Very, very excited to follow your journey. Neha, I have a question, which is, I'm very excited to hear the answer. What's your personal favorite story from the digitalization program that you guys have rolled out? Any particular woman that comes to mind for you?
Oh God, I have so many. I could write books on this, but one of my, I'd say, the one who had a very strong impact. I think all of them are very inspiring, but Rohini, she's from Satara. And, Rohini is, while she was growing up, she always had this passion for beekeeping. Like, she would just enjoy being around bees. And I met her through Internet Sati, when I went in. She's like, I started to learn how to make honey. And then she learned about organic honey. Then she learned about packaging. And then she learned about, how to brand her product. Like, just so committed, right? And not wanting to give up. And today Rohini has a thriving honey business. She's selling on online platforms within the country, outside the country. And she is just one of the many such sathis. And I feel like she really embodies the spirit of women that I have seen across the country in rural India. I've visited maybe 100 plus villages, in this entire journey. And there are a few things which stood out. One is focusing on the positive. Just being very optimistic, not saying this is holding me back, that is holding me back. They're just like, what can we do to make our lives better? Highly, highly resilient, right? And just like taking the opportunity and making the most of it, and that's really the spirit that I have seen across women in the country. They just need the opportunity, they just need the access, and then the world's open.
Interesting sub-question here. How does it affect their livelihood in general? I mean, the business is progressing, but how does it impact the life of them and their families?
It actually turns out to be really good because they get a lot of respect, which they have been denied. So what happens is, and I've heard it from a couple of them, is the fact that they have financial independence leads them to have so much more respect and say, not just in their household, but in the community. Their children respect them more, their families respect them more. When they go out into the community and make a point, they are heard, which was never the case earlier for them. So it opens up a very wide spectrum. It's tough, it's not easy. But once they start getting that financial independence, it's actually all about respect, and that's what changes for them.
That's so amazing to hear, that it's just not one aspect, the entire life and the entire family is kind of moving with it. So huge congratulations on that. Rashi, I have a question. I don't know why all your questions are related to either an interview or LinkedIn posts, but we'll go with it. In one of your LinkedIn posts, you actually mentioned 7 entrepreneurship learnings you received from your dog. You learned from your dog. I know your dog passed away. I'm so sorry about that. But can you take us through what you've learned from your dog that has kind of given you, and the very basis of your business was inspired by your pet. So what are some of the learnings, if you could share with us all?
Oh gosh, I am learning from dogs and cats every single day. I think really what they teach me is to be more compassionate, kinder, more empathetic. But the big thing is that they teach me that I think all that matters really in the end is love and your ability to receive it and to give it. And to just be content with who you are and what you have, and to really live life in the present moment every day. And of course, so many more, but I think that they are the most incredible creatures on the planet. And if you open your homes and your hearts to them, you see life from a very different and pure perspective, and I really hope that for everyone to experience.
So sweet. Thank you for that. We have a last round of quick questions for all of you, actually. What is the one biggest opportunity for women entrepreneurs and the one biggest challenge? We'll begin with you, Meghna.
So I don't know whether it is just for women, but I think there are just so many problems out there to solve, and perhaps because men have been solving them, the women, can bring their lens to it. This is really the Indian century, right? So I would just encourage everybody to think about, take something and solve it. It doesn't matter whether they're doing it in an entrepreneurial venture at home or at, or within a large organization, right? Like we're seeing people have impact everywhere. So really is whether it's technology or it's the timing, really the universe is conspiring to help us all succeed. So make it happen.
Yeah, amazing. What about you, Neha? The one biggest opportunity and the one biggest challenge?
Yeah, I'd say just deeply entrenched into the tech sector, but I do feel it's the startup space.
Yeah.
They're the growth engines of this country, taking us to a different level altogether. And I feel like when it comes to women's participation in the startup, so we did a research with TIE a few months back. And it's interesting that a lot of the women founders who are starting up are in the space of health, edtech, retail, commerce.
Yeah.
And those are the areas which are getting funded, like gaining the attention of VCs. I feel that's an opportunity where we really need to tap into the women founders in the startup spectrum.
Yeah.
At the same time, I would say the challenge is that women are not getting funded.
Yeah.
The time it takes for a woman founder to get to a seed A funding is much higher than what it does for male founders, all things same, right? And there is so much of entrepreneurial capability which we're not tapping into. I think that's a challenge we need to solve for how do we push them forward.
Very good insight. And you, Rashmi, what is the biggest opportunity and the biggest challenge?
I think the opportunity is the time that we're in now. There couldn't have been a better time when there is more mentorship, access to capital, opportunities in the country. It's really about putting your mind to something and making it come alive. We really can do that right now as much more than ever before. And I think the only thing that stands in our way is mental. It's just unlearning all of those biases or those obstacles that have been built up in our head because of how we've grown up or how we see the world. Anything is possible if we put our mind to it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys, for doing this amazing panel with me. Please give them a huge round of applause. Yeah, thank you for the time.